There's a kind of hunger that no food can satisfy, a thirst that no water ever truly quenches, a silence that lives beneath the noise of achievement, applause, and accolades. It waits quietly behind every goal reached, every milestone conquered, every box checked off a never-ending list. You may have felt it, that moment when you get what you thought you wanted and still feel empty. You climb, you push, you try again and again. But the moment the finish line comes into view, it moves further into the horizon. The promise of peace, always one step away. We've been taught that this is how life works. That fulfillment is something earned through effort, grit, and perseverance. That if you want something, anything, you must chase it, fight for it, hold on tight, and never stop. And so you run, faster, harder, believing that just a little more will finally be enough. But what if that belief is the very thing keeping you stuck? What if the chase is the problem? There's a law, ancient, silent, often forgotten, but it lives beneath everything. It is the quiet truth that turns our logic upside down. It's called the backwards law, and it says this: the more you chase something, the more you push it away. The harder you try, the more resistance you create. But the moment you stop grasping, when you let go, it comes to you, not because you gave up, but because you finally got out of the way. You see, the universe is not moved by desperation. It doesn't respond to force. It flows where there is space. It enters where there is surrender. And this, though deeply counterintuitive, is the truth that unlocks everything. There once was a man named Henry, a painter, a quiet soul who poured color on a canvas with the hope that someone would see him. For 15 years, he tried. Gallery submissions, cold emails, networking events, rejections. Again and again, he pushed. Not because he loved the chase, but because he thought it was the only way. He believed what we're all taught to believe, that recognition comes to those who fight for it. And so, he kept fighting. But with each attempt, it all seemed to slip further away, like sand through his fingers. Then, one winter morning, Henry sat in his studio, surrounded by silence. No exhibitions booked, no replies to his messages, just the echo of effort and the weight of not being seen. He looked at the walls and whispered something that changed everything. I paint because I must, not because I want to be chosen. And in that moment, something softened. He picked up his brush, not to impress, not to win, but to feel alive again. And so he painted, without expectation, without force. 2 weeks later, a cafe owner stumbled upon one of his pieces, displayed casually on a wall. That cafe was visited by a curator. That curator called a friend. That friend owned a gallery. And just like that, Henry's work was everywhere. Not because he tried harder, but because he stopped trying at all. This is how the backwards law works. The moment you let go of the desperate grip, life rushes in. Think of water. Try to hold it tightly, and it slips through your hands. But rest your palm, still and open, and it gathers with grace. Water resists nothing, and yet it shapes everything. It flows not by force, but by surrender. This is the same with love, with success, with healing, with inspiration, with peace. The more you grasp, the more they move away. But when you surrender, when you stop demanding and start allowing, they come gently like the tide, rising to meet you. So much of your struggle comes from this, the belief that effort equals results. But the truth is, not all movement is progress, and not all stillness is stagnation. Sometimes the most powerful shift happens in the silence, in the release. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, feel the weight of what you've been carrying, the things you've been chasing, the outcomes you've been trying to force. Feel how tight that energy is. Now exhale and imagine letting it all go, Not forever, just for now. No need to figure it out. No need to get it right. Just breathe and trust that maybe, just maybe, the universe already knows where it's taking you. There is no need to grasp. You are not here to wrestle life into submission. You are here to dance with it, to co-create with it, to move with grace, not grind. Because the truth is this: your worth was never meant to be proven. Your dreams were never meant to be chased. They were meant to flow through you, to emerge from you, like rivers from a mountain spring. When you stop fighting, you make space. Space for clarity, space for magic, space for the very things you've been trying so hard to create. The search does not end when you find something outside of you. It ends when you remember that everything you were seeking was always within. You're not lost. You're simply remembering. You're not behind. You are precisely where you're meant to be. You are not broken. You are unfolding. Let the struggle soften. Let the trying ease. Let this moment be enough. Because it is. And so are you. There is a hidden truth in the way the universe moves. A secret so quiet that it often goes unnoticed. But if you watch closely, it's everywhere. The flower does not strain to bloom. It opens when it's ready, not a moment before. The river does not fight its way to the sea. It flows, carving paths not by force, but by persistence and softness. The wind does not beg the leaves to dance. It moves and they respond. Nature is a master of surrender. And perhaps you are too. You've just forgotten. We've been taught to believe that if we're not pushing, we're falling behind. That if we're not constantly trying, we're somehow failing. But what if the most powerful thing you could do was to stop? What if surrender wasn't a sign of weakness, but a sign of alignment? A returning to the rhythm of something far greater than you? Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is coming home. There once was a man named James. Ambitious, determined. Every morning, he woke before sunrise. His days were a flurry of calls, meetings, lists, strategies, and plans. He read every book on business, attended every seminar, hustled harder than anyone he knew, but success always seemed to stay just out of reach. No matter how much he achieved, it was never enough. There was always another step, another fix, another hill to climb, until one evening, exhausted beyond words, James collapsed into a chair and whispered to the silence, "I don't know what else to do." And that's when everything changed. In that moment of surrender, not dramatic, not loud, just quiet and honest, life began to move. A conversation led to an unexpected partnership. A small opportunity blossomed into something vast. Within months, his business had grown more than it had in the last 5 years. But more importantly, James had grown, not because he tried harder, but because he finally allowed life to help him. Letting go isn't about being passive. It's about releasing resistance. When you release your grip, you become available to receive. The ancient sages called this Wu Wei, action through non-action. The art of doing without forcing. The power of moving in harmony with the flow rather than against it. You felt this flow before. In those moments when everything just worked, when the right person called at the right time, when inspiration arrived without warning, when you said the perfect thing without planning it. Those moments weren't accidents. They were evidence of what happens when you stop trying to control every detail. There's a subtle current running through all things. When you're tense, you fight it. When you relax, you join it. When you let go, you begin to float. Margaret knew this all too well. For years, she chased love with everything she had. Apps, meetups, dating events. Every conversation felt like an interview. Every moment was filled with pressure. But nothing stuck. Nothing felt real. Until she let it all go. She stopped searching. She started enjoying her solitude. She walked alone without longing. She cooked for herself, laughed alone, danced in her apartment like no one was watching. And love found her, not because she looked for it, but because she no longer needed it to feel whole. What you need is already looking for you, but it can't enter a closed door. Letting go opens that door. There's a lie we tell ourselves, that if we don't keep trying, we'll fall behind. But the truth is that struggle often pushes what we want further away. Think of trying to fall asleep. The harder you try, the more awake you feel. But when you finally stop trying, sleep takes you. Letting go is not the end of effort. It is the beginning of grace. And grace doesn't require you to do more. It invites you to be more present, open, and at peace. Take a breath now, not a shallow one, a real one. Let it fill your body slowly. Then release it fully, audibly, completely. Inhale again. Feel your shoulders drop, your jaw relax, your chest soften. There's nowhere to go, nothing to prove, just you and this moment exactly as it is. Now bring to mind something you've been chasing, something you've held tightly, a goal, a relationship, an outcome. Notice the tension around it, the grasp, the worry, and now loosen it. Imagine it floating above your hand like a leaf in a breeze. Not lost, just released. Still with you, but no longer gripped. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop controlling. You let life have a say. You allow the universe to show you a path you didn't know existed. There's a quiet intelligence behind all things. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't rush. It waits. And it's waiting for you to stop running so it can meet you where you are. Clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from silence. Solutions don't always come from action. Sometimes they arrive when you simply stop resisting. There is nothing wrong with your dreams, but how you've been taught to reach them may be the very thing in the way. Let go of the chase and step into the current. Let go of the needing and step into the knowing. Let go of the timeline and trust the unfolding. What is meant for you cannot miss you, but you can miss it by trying to force it in a form before it's ready. Breathe again, deeper this time. Let this breath carry away the strain. Let it remind you that ease is not laziness, it's intelligence. That flow is not foolish, it's alignment. And that surrender is not failure. It's the gateway to everything you've ever wanted. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to release what no longer serves you. Letting go isn't giving up. Letting go is the way forward. We live in a world obsessed with seeking. More success, more clarity, more healing, more love, more proof that we are enough. But in all the seeking, something quiet gets lost. Something vital, something sacred, our ability to just be. There's a deep irony in the way we chase what we already carry, as if peace were somewhere out there, buried in some future event, waiting to be found. But the more we look for it, the more it disappears, like a reflection that vanishes when we reach for it. The backwards law lives here too, in this ancient truth. The moment you stop trying to become, you remember that you already are. You've been taught to work hard for what you want, to strive, to hustle, to sacrifice. You've been conditioned to believe that you must earn what is good, prove your worth, and fight for love. But what if the fight was never necessary? What if all this effort was like trying to make the ocean flow, when all it ever needed was for you to stop building dams? This isn't about passivity. This is about embodiment. Not chasing the future version of yourself, but becoming them right now. Lillian once believed that she had to do everything perfectly to land her dream job. Her resume was polished. Her clothes were right. She networked, researched, memorized talking points, rehearsed answers. But every opportunity slipped away. Not because she wasn't good enough, but because she was trying too hard to convince the world she was someone she didn't yet believe herself to be. So one day, she changed her approach. She stopped trying to be hired. and started living as though she had already been chosen. She began treating herself like someone who already held the position. She decorated her home office with beauty. She kept a schedule that reflected purpose and balance. She stood taller, spoke slower, smiled more. Not because she was pretending, but because she was finally being. Within weeks, an unexpected referral opened the exact door she had once tried to force. Not because she had sent another email, but because her energy had shifted. She was no longer seeking. She was being. This is the energetic key that unlocks reality. The universe doesn't respond to effort. It responds to alignment. And alignment happens when who you are inside matches the reality you wish to experience outside. There is no need to beg for what is already yours. There's only the need to remember who you are before the world told you otherwise. Imagine this, a version of you who already has what your heart longs for. See them, feel them, notice how they breathe, how they walk into a room, how they speak, how they carry themselves. Now realize, that version of you is not waiting somewhere in the future. They exist here and now. All that's needed is for you to embody them, not in a way that pretends, not in a way that performs, but in a way that honors the truth you've buried beneath the weight of trying. This is not about faking it. It's about claiming it, because what you seek is not outside you. It is seeking you, through you. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a breath that belongs to someone who is already at peace, already fulfilled, already whole. Let your posture shift to match this reality. Let your heart soften as if everything you wanted had just arrived. Let your smile rise, not from excitement, but from deep, steady knowing. Feel that? That's who you've been all along. You don't need to become anything. You only need to remove what was never yours. The doubt, the guilt, the belief that you must struggle to be worthy. Strip them away. What remains is you. You, who is already loved, already seen, already enough. The need to seek falls away when you realize there is nowhere to go. There is only this moment, and how fully you inhabit it. Edith, a bookstore clerk with a dream of becoming a writer, once believed that success was far from her reach. She wrote in secret, hiding her words like fragile feathers that the world might crush. Until one day, she stopped hiding. She began to live as if her books were already changing lives. She rearranged her desk as if it were her creative studio. She spoke about her work with grounded confidence, not arrogance, but authenticity. One afternoon, in a cafe, a stranger overheard her speaking about her writing with such clarity, such certainty, that he asked to read her manuscript. He was a literary agent. The deal that followed wasn't magic. It was alignment. Reality simply caught up with who she had decided to be. You don't have to wait for the outside world to confirm your worth. You decide who you are, and then you live it. The moment you stop seeking something out there and start being it in here, the universe bends to meet you. Not through force, not through proving, but through presence. So, what would happen if you stopped chasing? What would happen if you started breathing like someone who has already arrived? Not at the finish line, but at the center of their own becoming. Try it. Wake up tomorrow and wear the clothes your future self would wear. Speak with the clarity your future self would carry. Make choices from the peace your future self already owns. Not to pretend, but to embody. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. So become it. Not with tension, but with grace. Not with fear, but with trust. Not with lack, but with the full, rooted energy of someone who remembers. You already are what you've been seeking. You already hold the seed of everything you long to create. And all you need to do now is be it. There's a moment that arrives in every journey, quiet and uninvited, when nothing seems to work. When the pushing becomes exhausting. When the striving feels hollow. When every door you've knocked on echoes back only silence. It's in that moment, fragile, uncertain, tender, that something ancient within you begins to stir. A voice you've kept buried under all your trying. A whisper that says, what if you stop forcing and just allowed? Surrender. The word itself can feel like defeat, but that's only because we've misunderstood its meaning. Surrender isn't giving up. Surrender is giving over, releasing your grasp on control and trusting in a greater current already guiding your life. You don't need to paddle harder. You need to let the river carry you. Doris had spent years building her life to perfection. The perfect job, the beautiful home, the carefully planned future. But in a single season, it all unraveled. She lost everything. Her career, her relationship, her sense of safety. For weeks, she fought to fix it. She resisted what had happened, demanding that life return to how it was. But the more she fought, the heavier it all became. Until one morning, with tears in her eyes and her hands resting on her chest, she whispered to the silence, I surrender. No dramatic scene, no magical lightning, just a soft and honest yielding. And that was enough. In the months that followed, things shifted, not because she forced them to, but because she allowed life to move. An old friend reached out, offering her a position that aligned perfectly with her purpose. A new city brought healing she didn't know she needed. A partner appeared when she wasn't looking, someone who loved her not for the life she had lost, but for the presence she had finally found. The miracle wasn't the outcome. The miracle was the surrender. There's a wisdom in surrender that the mind can't understand. The mind wants blueprints and timelines. It wants to calculate and control. But life is not a spreadsheet. It is a spiral, a breath, a dance. To surrender is to soften. To let go of the illusion that you were ever in control of anything beyond your own presence. There is no weakness in surrender, only strength. It takes courage to stop resisting, to stop demanding answers, to say, I trust, even when you don't know what comes next. But trust doesn't require guarantees. It only requires space. Space for life to surprise you. Space for your heart to heal. Space for the intelligence of the universe to move through you. Kai was a monk who once got lost in the desert. For days, he tried to find his way, relying on maps and memories. But nothing made sense. He fought the wind, the heat, the silence. And then, when his body had no more strength, he sat in the sand and closed his eyes. He stopped fighting, and he began listening. He noticed the direction of the wind, the patterns of the stars, the sound of distant movement, and slowly, one step at a time, he let the desert guide him. He reached water, then shelter, then home. Surrender didn't weaken him. It saved him. So much of what you're seeking can only reach you after you let go of the need to control how it arrives. Control is rooted in fear. Fear of uncertainty, fear of pain, fear of loss. But fear builds walls, and walls keep out the very miracles trying to find you. When you surrender, you don't lose your power. You finally gain access to it. Take a breath now. Let it enter fully and release. Bring to mind something you've been clinging to, an expectation, a worry, a timeline. Feel how it lives in your body, in the tightness of your shoulders, in the weight of your chest. Now, imagine placing that burden in the hands of something greater. Not because you failed, but because you were never meant to carry it alone. Let go. Let it breathe. Let it become whatever it needs to be without your interference. This is sacred surrender. The surrender that doesn't mean silence, but deep listening. The surrender that doesn't mean inaction, but aligned action. The surrender that says, I will show up. I will take steps, but I will no longer demand. I will trust the unfolding. Agnes, the innkeeper in Venice, once tried to force her business through every season. Summer was abundant, winter was quiet. And she hated the quiet. She resisted it, fought it, tried to market her way through the stillness. But nothing worked. The guests didn't come. The rooms stayed empty. Until she accepted the rhythm. She let winter be what it was meant to be, a season of rest, reflection, reinvention. She stopped forcing growth and started preparing the soil. In those winter months, she found new inspiration, redesigned her rooms, wrote the stories she had been too busy to tell. And by spring, her room was not just full, it was alive. Surrender doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to trust. You are part of a vast, intelligent design, and it is not working against you. It is shaping you, stretching you, guiding you, but it cannot guide someone who is clinging to the map. You must let go. Let go of what should be. Let go of how it has to happen. Let go of who you thought you needed to become. Only then can life show you something better, something bigger, something you couldn't plan, but were always meant to receive. So ask yourself, what am I still fighting? Or am I still grasping? What do I need to say? Not with fear, but with faith. I surrender, and then say it. Whisper it. Feel it. I surrender. I release. I trust. This is the sacred art of letting go. This is the real strength, not in holding everything together, but in trusting that nothing real can ever be lost. You're safe to let go. You are allowed to rest. You're allowed to flow with life instead of against it. Surrender is not the end of your power. It is the beginning of your peace. There comes a moment after all the striving and all the surrender when a deeper truth begins to rise, not as an idea, not as a belief, but as a memory, a quiet knowing that has no words but lives in your bones. You are not who you thought you were. You are not the seeker. You are not the struggler. You are not even the one waiting for something to finally arrive. You are the source, the one who creates, the one who speaks worlds into form, not through force, but through being. We spend our lives asking for signs, waiting for permission, hoping that the universe will choose us. But the truth is more radical than that. The truth is, you were never meant to be chosen, because you were the one choosing all along. Gilbert had spent decades immersed in study, spiritual books, ancient scriptures, teachings from every corner of the world. He had traveled across oceans, sat in temples, meditated in silence, always seeking the next key, the next secret, the next step to unlock it all. But one afternoon, sitting alone in his quiet home, surrounded by all the answers he had collected, he felt something he never had before: stillness. And in that stillness came a voice, not from outside, but from deep within. There's nothing left to seek, because you are what you've been searching for. It wasn't a thought. It was truth. So simple it couldn't be taught. So obvious it had been missed. He didn't need another method. He didn't need another mantra. He needed to remember that his desires were not requests to a universe far away. They were expressions of a universe within him. Hazel experienced the same awakening. She had practiced every affirmation, followed every visualization technique. But the moment that shifted her entire reality was the moment she stopped trying to manifest and realized she was already creating everything. She saw clearly. The thought she clung to became her world. The energy she carried became her mirror. Life wasn't happening to her. It was happening through her. And just like that, she stopped asking, when will it come? Instead, she began declaring, it's already here. Because it always had been. You're not here to wish. You are here to create. Not with desperation, but with the quiet, unwavering knowing that your consciousness is the canvas, your energy, the paint, your belief, the brush. There is no external power to beg, no cosmic gatekeeper withholding your dreams. Only you, your openness, your willingness, your remembrance. What you hold as true within you must reflect itself around you. Not instantly, not always in the form you imagined, but inevitably, because your inner world is the origin of everything you will ever experience. You are the cause. Reality is the effect. And when you stop trying to fix the mirror and instead tend to the light within you, it all changes. Not because you controlled it, but because you remembered you are it. Close your eyes now. Let everything drop. The effort, the techniques, the seeking. What remains? Awareness. The same awareness that has been with you your entire life. The one who watches your thoughts, who witnesses your joys and your pain, who lives quietly beneath your name, your story, your personality. This awareness is not passive. It is creative. It is not separate from the energy that shapes galaxies, births stars, orchestrates seasons. It is that energy, and it lives as you. You don't need to become powerful. You are power. You don't need to chase abundance. You are abundance expressed in form. You don't need to call love in. You are love, remembering itself. Let that sink in. You're not broken. You are becoming. You're not behind. You are unfolding. You're not lacking. You are overflowing with possibility. So now step into this knowing, not with noise, but with presence. Let the world fall away. Let the how fall away. Let the timelines dissolve. And say this, not as an affirmation, not as a hope, but as a recognition. I'm not seeking power. I am power itself. I'm not attracting reality. I am creating reality. Everything I experience flows from my own being. I declare this not as desire, but as truth. Feel those words not just in your mind, but in your body, in your breath, in the space behind your heart. You don't need to earn your place here. You don't need to convince life to bless you. You're life. You are the blessing. You're the spark and the flame. So stop waiting. Stop shrinking. Stop deferring your own brilliance to some distant day. You are ready now, not because you have everything figured out, but because you've stopped pretending you don't already know. You don't need to shout your truth. You only need to live it. And when you do, the world rearranges itself. Not because it was against you, but because you finally aligned with it. You are not here to chase light. You are here to remember you've always been it. Breathe into that. Let it fill your chest. Let it settle into your bones. Let it echo through the silence of your becoming. Because this is not the end of the search. It is the moment it begins to look very different. From here on, you don't chase life. You meet it. You welcome it. You shape it gently, boldly, truthfully. Let's keep going. There's a place inside you that is always quiet, always present, always waiting. It doesn't speak in words. It doesn't rise with urgency. It doesn't push or pull or demand. But when you enter that place, even for a moment, everything changes. The noise of the world fades. The questions lose their grip. And what remains is something ancient, something sacred, stillness. We live in a world addicted to noise. Every silence is filled, every pause avoided. The moment a quiet moment arrives, we reach for a screen, a distraction, a task, a thought. Because somewhere along the way, we were taught that silence is empty, that stillness is useless. But nothing could be further from the truth. Stillness is not the absence of life. Stillness is life. In its purest form, is the space from which all clarity arises, the doorway through which the universe speaks, the place where alignment becomes possible. Benjamin once lived in constant motion. Spreadsheets, targets, deadlines, calendars packed from sunrise to midnight. His success, by the world's standards, was impressive. But inside, his mind was a maze, loud, tangled, tired. The more he pushed, the more confused he became. No matter how hard he thought, no answer ever felt clear. One morning, exhausted, he did something radical. He stopped. He sat. No music, no phone, no agenda, just silence. At first, his mind resisted. Thoughts screamed for attention. To-do lists clawed at him. But he stayed, breathed, waited, and then something shifted. A space opened, and within that space, a simple truth emerged, not as a thought, but as a knowing. It was the answer he had been chasing for years, and it had waited patiently behind the noise. Stillness doesn't give you what you want. It reveals what you've always had. It doesn't hand you a map. It reminds you that the compass is within you. Modern science is only just beginning to understand what ancient wisdom has always known, that the brain functions at its highest when it is quiet, that our nervous system regulates in stillness, that the heart finds coherence when the mind is at peace. In silence, your being realigns. In stillness, your soul remembers. Marion, a painter, once believed that creativity required discipline, structure, effort. Every morning, she forced herself to paint, sat at her easel with a clenched jaw and a restless heart. But the canvas stayed blank. Then one evening, after giving up her usual rituals, she simply sat beside her paints, without pressure, just presence. She didn't plan, she didn't push. She just listened to the quiet, to the breath, to the soft pulse of being. And suddenly, her hands moved. Colors came alive. Images flowed, not from her mind, but from something deeper, something untouched by thinking. Her greatest work emerged from that stillness, because creativity is not summoned. It is received, and reception only happens in the space where force falls away. Take a breath with me now, not for doing, but for being. Inhale gently, and as you exhale, imagine settling into the silence beneath the noise. There's a place within you that is untouched by the world, a place that doesn't fear the future, that doesn't regret the past, that knows without thinking. This is the place of stillness, and it is always available, always here, waiting. You don't need hours of meditation to find it. You only need a moment of real attention. The space between two thoughts, the pause between two breaths, the softness behind the eyes. Even now, you can feel it. That subtle presence, that awareness watching you watch. That is stillness. And in that stillness lives wisdom you can't think your way into. Answers you'll never find by chasing. Peace you won't reach by fixing. Stillness is where the soul speaks, not in language, but in light, in intuition, in clarity without explanation. This is why the greatest shifts in life so often come not after striving, but after silence. Because stillness doesn't change the world around you. It changes the one who is seeing it. And when you're seeing shifts, everything else follows. The next time you feel lost, don't search harder. Be still. The next time you feel anxious, don't fix it. Be still. The next time you want to figure it all out, just stop, sit, close your eyes, and listen. The truth you're chasing is already whispering, but only silence can hear it. You don't need to force your way forward. You don't need to earn your clarity. You only need to slow down long enough to meet what has been here all along. Stillness is the space where your power returns. Because in stillness, you stop grasping. And in that space, creation begins. Not with effort, but with awareness. Not with strain, but with openness. You're not here to race through your life. You are here to feel it, to witness it, to co-create it from a place of peace. Every answer you need lives within you, and it waits, not in more effort, but in less. So when you forget, come back here. Come back to the breath, to the space behind your thoughts, to the quiet presence that has always been watching, to the stillness beneath the noise. There is no rush. There is no urgency, only this moment, and the truth that is already here when you're still enough to see it. There is a space you enter when the plan falls apart, when the map dissolves, when the future refuses to answer the questions you've been asking. It is the space between what was and what is yet to be. and it is one of the most sacred places you will ever walk through. The unknown. Most people fear it. They fill it with worry, overthinking, forecasts, and fallback plans. Because uncertainty makes the ego tremble. It cannot stand what it cannot control. But the soul speaks a different language. To the soul, the unknown is not darkness. It is potential. It is pure possibility, unformed, untamed, alive. It is the blank canvas before the first brushstroke, the silent page before the first word, the empty space into which life can finally flow. Thomas knew the ache of trying to plan every step. He filled notebooks with strategies, spreadsheets with timelines, calendars with backup plans for backup plans. He mapped out his whole life in the hope that certainty would protect him from disappointment. But life, in its wisdom, kept unraveling those plans. Every perfectly crafted path dissolved. Every effort to control was met with redirection. Until one evening, exhausted from the noise of his own mind, Thomas said aloud to no one in particular, "I don't know what comes next, and maybe that's okay." That was the first real breath he had taken in years. The next morning, without planning it, he went for a walk with no destination. And on that walk, he met someone. That someone led to a conversation. That conversation led to a new collaboration. And that collaboration opened a door to a life he couldn't have imagined because it hadn't been on any of his lists. He didn't get there by controlling. He got there by trusting the unknown. This is how the universe works. It rarely gives you what you expect. It gives you what you're aligned with. And alignment comes from presence, not prediction. To walk into the unknown is to walk in faith, not blind belief, but a deep, rooted trust that something greater is guiding you. That not knowing doesn't mean being lost. You are not lost. You are being guided in silence. Evelyn had a vision of love. She knew what it should look like, what they should say, how they should act. She made lists, curated profiles, timed her replies perfectly, but nothing landed. No connection felt real. One day, after canceling yet another carefully arranged date, Evelyn let go. Not with frustration, but with softness. She put down the list, closed the apps, and walked to the little cafe at the corner simply to be. She didn't expect anything. And that's why it happened. She met someone who didn't check any of her boxes, but opened her heart in ways no plan ever could. Because love isn't something you design. It's something you allow. The unknown is where love lives, where magic lives, where alignment happens. Not because you planned for it, but because you made space for it. But trusting the unknown doesn't mean doing nothing. It means listening, following the quiet cues, responding to the next breath, not the next year. Take a moment now. Think of something you've been trying to figure out, an outcome you've been trying to predict or force. Notice the tension in that, the pressure to know, to get it right. Now, close your eyes, breathe in deeply, and as you exhale, let go of the question. Just for now, let float, let rest. Let yourself step into the unknown, not with fear, but with reverence. You don't need all the answers. You only need the next step, and the next step is almost always revealed in stillness. Faith is not pretending to be certain. Faith is being willing to move anyway, to take one step, and then trust that the next one will appear. The bridge doesn't always build itself until your foot is midair. That is the magic of the unknown. You meet the path as you walk it. The oak tree doesn't know how tall it will grow. The stars don't ask for permission to shine. They simply follow their nature. And your nature is not fear. It is trust. It is deep, cellular trust in something that moves through all things. Call it life. Call it God. Call it the universe. Call it your higher self. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that you feel it, that you begin to lean into it, to rest in it, to walk with it. You're not here to predict every moment. You are here to experience them. You are not here to control the current. You are here to float. And when fear whispers that you're drifting, remind yourself, I don't need to know everything. I just need to trust what is already guiding me. Even the unknown has order. Even the chaos is sacred. You don't need to see the whole sky to know the stars are there. And you don't need to see the whole path to keep moving forward. Just trust the next breath, the next impulse, the next quiet yes. And above all, trust yourself, because that voice inside you that says, I don't know what's next, but I feel something real in this moment, that voice is truth. Follow it. Let the unknown become your sanctuary, not because it gives you control, but because it invites your surrender. And in surrender, you return to yourself. You are not meant to live a scripted life. You are meant to live a sacred one that unfolds moment by moment, like petals in spring. So when the plan falls apart, smile. When the path vanishes, breathe. Because you're not being punished. You're being prepared. And what comes next may not be what you imagined. It might be something better. We like to believe we're in control. That if we plan well enough, prepare long enough, push hard enough, life will obey. It's comforting to think we hold the reins. But comfort is not the same as truth. And the truth is this. Control is an illusion. Not because you are powerless, but because real power doesn't come from control. It comes from alignment. It comes from presence. It comes from trust. Harold learned this the hard way. He scheduled every part of his day, color-coded his life, triple-checked the weather before choosing his socks. He was praised for his discipline, admired for his precision. But inside, he was exhausted, fragile, afraid. Then, one Monday morning, something he hadn't planned happened. His company shut down. No warning. No backup plan could save it. His system collapsed. At first, Harold spiraled, grasping for the next fix, the next plan, the next thing he could control. But none of it worked. So, for the first time, he sat in the mess of it. No solutions, no strategy, just stillness. And in that stillness, a new voice emerged. Not a voice of panic, but a whisper of freedom. Maybe I don't need to control everything to be okay. It was the first honest breath he'd taken in years. Control had not protected him. It had only kept him small. Because when you try to control everything, you close the door to anything greater than your own understanding. Control is a cage made of good intentions. We build it with schedules, goals, identities, beliefs. We build it with fear, dressed as responsibility. But life doesn't live inside that cage. Life moves. It surprises. It reshapes you. And only when you let go of the grip can it touch you fully. There's a river inside you, flowing quietly beneath the need to organize and predict. It doesn't move in straight lines. It moves in truth. You can resist it. You can dam it. You can deny it. But eventually, the river breaks through. Why? Because you were never meant to carry life. You were meant to flow with it. Mabel ran a family trading business in Damascus. For years, she repeated the same routes, worked with the same people, relied on the same methods. It was safe, familiar, predictable, until a storm washed out the road she knew. For days, she panicked. Then, slowly, she began to explore new paths, territories she had never dared to enter, people she had never imagined working with. What she found changed everything. New goods, better customers, greater expansion, not because she planned it, but because she finally stopped clinging to what she thought she had to control. When you let go of control, you don't become lost. You become available. Available to better timing. Available to higher wisdom. Available to life itself. But we resist this truth because we've been taught that control equals safety. And it does on the surface. But deep down, control creates stress. It creates anxiety. It tightens your body. It narrows your vision. And that tension, It blocks everything you're trying to let in. Take a breath now. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw relax. Let your mind rest. There is nothing for you to fix right now. There is no outcome to manage. No future to secure. Only this moment, and your presence within it. The deeper truth is you never had control. You had choices. You had intentions. You had responses. But you were never meant to manipulate the entire unfolding. Look at nature. The flower doesn't control its bloom. The tide doesn't negotiate with the moon. The tree doesn't fight to hold its leaves in winter. They surrender, not passively, but intelligently. They surrender to the rhythms that are bigger than their preferences. And in doing so, they thrive. What if you stopped trying to control your transformation and trusted it instead? What if the path doesn't need you to design it, just to walk it? What if you don't need to control the outcome, just show up fully for the moment? There's freedom here, and there's power, the kind of power that doesn't need to shout. It simply is. And from that space of presence, the right actions rise naturally, not from fear, but from clarity, not from panic, but from peace. Control often feels like action, but letting go is the deeper move. So ask yourself now, where am I still trying to control what doesn't belong to me? Where am I tightening instead of trusting? And then breathe into those places, gently, kindly, because surrender doesn't mean you stop moving. It means you stop resisting the movement that already wants to carry you. You don't need to know how it will all unfold. You only need to remain open enough to be led. Let go of the illusion. Let go of the grip. And watch what rises in its place. Ease, alignment, a sense of being held by something wiser than your plans. Because you are, and you always have been, there is a delicate balance in life. Between effort and surrender. Between showing up and letting go. You're not here to be passive. You are here to move, to create, to build, to express. But not from fear, not from force. The most powerful action you can take is the one not tethered to outcome, not rooted in desperation, but born from alignment. This is what it means to take action without attachment. It is not the absence of desire. It is the absence of need. It is the shift from, I must make this happen, to, I trust that my part is enough and life will meet me halfway. Milton spent months paralyzed in front of his vision board. Every morning, he would stare at the goals he'd written down, visualizing them with intensity, afraid to make the wrong move. He thought surrender meant stillness, that if he waited long enough, something would happen. But nothing came because he wasn't really surrendered. He was afraid of failing, afraid of disrupting some cosmic plan. So he did nothing until one day, sitting in a quiet park, he noticed a potter at work. Her hands moved decisively, yet gently. There was no strain, no rush, just flow, and he saw it clearly. She wasn't forcing the clay. She was partnering with it. That's when it clicked. Surrender doesn't mean inaction. It means letting your action arise from peace, not pressure. So Milton made a choice. He stopped trying to do it perfectly. He made the call, took the step, started writing again, not to prove anything, not to chase anything, but because it felt right. The moment he let go of the outcome, everything began to shift. Clients returned. Creative ideas flowed. Opportunities appeared. Not because he chased them, but because he was finally in motion without fear. This is what aligned action looks like. You show up, you move, you give your heart, and then you release. You don't tie your worth to what happens next. You don't make success a condition for peace. You act as if your soul has already said yes, and you let the world respond in its time. Cora, an aspiring author, used to send emails with trembling hands. She'd refresh her inbox every 5 minutes, praying for replies, for approval, for proof that she mattered. Every silence felt like rejection, every pause like punishment, until she learned the art of non-attachment. She still wrote, still sent her work, but this time she did it from wholeness, not from hunger. And slowly, something changed. Her writing became more honest, her voice more grounded. People responded, not to her performance, but to her presence. Because when you act without grasping, you transmit a different energy. An energy that says, I am not chasing validation, I am offering truth. That's the energy the universe listens to. That's the frequency of trust. Non-attachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to let things unfold without suffocating them. It's the way the ocean sends its waves to the shore without needing to know exactly where they'll land. It's how the tree releases its leaves, trusting that spring will come again. It's how the sun rises each day, never asking for applause. This is not passive living. This is powerful allowing. There's a reason the great spiritual texts teach detachment from the fruits of action. Because when you act only to get something, your action becomes contaminated by anxiety. But when you act from love, from clarity, from alignment, your action becomes a gift. You don't control the harvest. You tend to soil. You water the roots, and you let nature do the rest. So take a moment now. Think of something you want, something you've been working toward. Feel the energy around it. Is it light or tight, expansive or desperate? Now breathe into that space and silently say, I release my grip on the result. I trust the unfolding. I act from love, not lack. Then move. Do the thing. Make the call. Send the email. Start the project. Have the conversation. But do it without needing it to go a certain way. Because when you are free from the outcome, you become magnetic. You're no longer begging. You're simply being. And being is always enough. Let your action arise from presence. Let be an expression, not a transaction. And then let go. Let life respond in its own time, in its own rhythm, in its own wisdom. You are not the one pushing the current. You're the one dancing with it. Action without attachment is trust in motion. And when you move like that, you move the world. There's a truth few speak aloud, but you've felt it. You've lived it. Whatever you chase runs. It's not because you're unworthy. It's not because life is against you. It's because chasing is rooted in the energy of lack. And lack cannot attract fulfillment. It can only reinforce itself. But when you stop chasing, something shifts. Something subtle. Something powerful. You become magnetic. You begin to draw in what once ran from you. Not because you've mastered a technique, but because you've become a different frequency. Magnetism doesn't come from doing more. It comes from being more of who you truly are. Stanley used to try hard to be liked. He changed how he spoke depending on who was in the room. He followed advice about charm, about confidence, about how to win people over. But the more he tried, the more disconnected he became. His energy whispered, "Please choose me." And people felt it. Until one day, he got tired. Tired of trying to be liked. Tired of chasing connection. He stopped adjusting. Stopped performing. He began to return to himself. He spoke slower. He listened more. He stayed silent when he had nothing true to say. And something surprising happened. People started gravitating toward him. Not for his effort, but for his ease. They didn't know what it was, but they felt it. He wasn't chasing. He was being, and being is magnetic. Because the universe doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your vibration. And your vibration is shaped not by what you want, but by who you are being right now. You can say, "I am abundant" 1,000 times. But if your body is tense and your heart is doubting, you're not attracting abundance. You're broadcasting fear. Magnetism begins not with intention, but with embodiment. So the question is not, what do I want to attract? The question is, who would I be if it was already mine? Because when you become the version of you who already has the love, the peace, the purpose, you collapse the distance between you and the desire. Mavis wanted to expand her business. She spent months trying to force growth. Emails, meetings, networking, strategies, but nothing landed. Everything felt heavy. Then one morning, she asked a different question. What if I stopped trying to expand and simply became someone who already has expanded? She changed nothing on the outside, but on the inside, everything softened. She stopped chasing clients, started enjoying her space, treated herself with the reverence of someone who had already succeeded. And like a mirror, life began to reflect it. Clients reached out, collaborations flowed, not because she worked harder, but because her energy changed. This is the secret. You attract not through effort, but through energetic alignment. And alignment requires you to feel now what you thought you'd feel then. It's not about faking. It's about tuning in. So pause with me now. Bring to mind something you desire. Close your eyes. Feel the version of you who already has it. What does your body feel like? How do you speak? How do you breathe? How do you walk into a room? Now become them. Not later. Now, let that energy rise. Not from your thoughts, but from your state of being. Let it radiate beyond you like a signal. A lighthouse that doesn't chase ships. It simply shines. This is what you are. A transmitter, a field, a frequency. The more you align your inner world, the more your outer world follows. You don't need to beg life for what you want. You need to become someone who no longer needs it to feel complete. Because that's what draws it to you. Peace attracts peace. Confidence attracts opportunity. Joy attracts connection. Wholeness attracts miracles. Not because you earn them, but because you match them. There's no effort in this, only honesty. So the work becomes simple. Feel now what you thought you'd feel later. Be now who you thought you'd become someday. Not a trick life, but to remember you're a life. You are not separate from what you seek. You are the source of the signal. So signal clearly. Signal boldly. Signal from truth. You don't need to run after love. You don't need to chase recognition. You don't need to beg the world to see you. Just return to your essence, to the part of you that already knows. I'm a magnet. I don't chase. I attract. Let your silence speak louder than your strategy. Let your presence do the calling. Let your frequency speak for you. Because when you stop grasping, life begins responding, not to your plans, but to your presence. So here you are. After all the seeking, the letting go, the remembering, the allowing, you arrive in the only place you were ever meant to be. Right here, right now, fully aware, fully present, not chasing, not waiting, just being. This is where real power lives. It doesn't scream. It doesn't strive. It doesn't compete. It moves quietly, in harmony with something larger, deeper, older than thought. This is the essence of the backwards law, the ancient, sacred paradox that whispers. The more you try to grasp, the more it slips away. The moment you release, it comes. Not because you earned it, but because you aligned with it. All your life, you were taught that power meant control. That success required struggle. That peace had to be postponed. But what if you've had it backwards all along? What if the power you seek isn't something you achieve, but something you allow? What if your greatest strength comes not from effort, but from your willingness to trust? To trust in the timing, in the unfolding, in yourself. Amara lived her life by the book. She followed the rules, checked every box, tried to be everything for everyone. On the outside, she looked accomplished, but on the inside, she was tired, disconnected, hollow. She thought peace would come after the next win, the next project, the next approval, until one afternoon, she stopped. Not because she had a breakdown, but because she had a breakthrough. She looked around and asked, "What if I already am everything I've been trying to become?" That question unraveled everything, and in its place came something new: stillness, honesty, presence. She didn't quit her life. She just stopped performing in it. She started living. And in that quiet shift, everything changed. The relationships that drained her fell away. The opportunities that aligned with her truth appeared. Not with noise, not with struggle, but with clarity. That's what happens when you live the backwards law. Life begins to meet you in the frequency of your being, not the weight of your effort. Because when you act from alignment, even the smallest step carries the force of 1,000 plans. And when you no longer chase what you want, you start to radiate what you are. So what does it mean to live this way? It means you stop living on delay. It means joy isn't something you save for later. It's something you feel now. Not because everything is perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. It means you still take action, but from inspiration, not pressure. You still move forward, but with grace, not urgency. You still hold vision, but with openness, not obsession. It means you wake up and breathe deeply into your body, not rushing into the day like something must be proven. It means you meet others without needing to impress, because your worth no longer depends on their recognition. It means you speak your truth without needing to be right. You give without keeping score. You rest without guilt. You walk without racing. This is effortless power, not passive, not lazy, but so deeply aligned that effort becomes unnecessary. Like the hawk riding the current of wind, like the wave rolling toward shore, like the moon pulling the tide. There is effort there, but it is natural, effortless in its flow. And that's what you are now learning to live. A life where you don't force the current. You join it. Where you don't demand the moment. You inhabit it. Where you don't fight your path. You trust it. And this isn't a one-time realization. It's a practice, a way of being, a remembering again and again. So when a fear rises, come back. When a mind grabs for control, come back. When the pressure creeps in, come back. To what? To stillness, to breath, to trust, to the knowing that lives beneath it all. I don't need to chase life. I only need to meet it. And I meet it best when I'm being all of me. This is the art of living the backwards law. It's not a system, not a formula, not a checklist. It's a frequency, and you're tuning into it more and more. Every time you let go, every time you soften, every time you stop trying to force what's already flowing. So now, as this journey begins to settle into your bones, let it echo one more time, quietly but clearly. You are not the seeker. You are the source. You are not chasing the light. You are the light. You are not waiting for power. You are living it. Right here, right now, in this breath. The backwards law is no longer a concept. It is a way of walking through the world. And every time you live it, the world responds. With ease, with grace, with miracles that feel like home. So breathe in one last time. Let the wisdom settle. Let the silence return. Let the knowing become part of you now. And as you return to your day, your world, your rhythm, don't forget, you don't have to prove. You don't have to push. You don't have to strive. You only have to remember. Remember who you are. Remember what you already carry. Remember that you are not here to chase life. You are here to live it beautifully, fully, softly, with eyes open, with heart free, with energy aligned. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Welcome to a life of effortless power. If you enjoyed this content, share it and subscribe to the channel. Every day, we bring new videos to nourish your soul.